Welcome to BET Business Executive Tips, a blog created for sharing theory and practices in human resource management, and has been created as per the requirements of the MBA program, offered at London Metropolitan University for the assessment year of 2018-19. We hope that you will find this video to be useful. Welcome to this mini video. In this video we will be discussing about the strategic importance of human resource management. What is strategy? Obviously this is a very important word that people come across, especially in the business world. If it is so important, then we must have an understanding about what the word means. If we look at this word from our general perspective, it can be that someone can interpret it as a course of action, or even as something that is done over a long period of time. And you may argue that why is it not a way of thinking? Well, yes, that is also correct. Since some people tend to interpret the term strategy in that sense. So, I guess now it is possible to see that the word strategy has been interpreted in different ways and no one interpretation can be taken as a better one compared to the others. Perhaps selecting the best interpretation about the word strategy is something that is up to us as the people who use the word. So, because of the importance of the word strategy, we see that educational institutes and scholars alike have introduced topics like strategic marketing, strategic human resource management, corporate strategy. Apart from that, if you do a simple Google search on the word strategic, just see the number of results you will get. And the number of results are likely going to increase as time passes. So, it is reasonable for us to say that the word strategy is a word that has been abused a lot. Hence it is the first point that we discussed. When we look at the second point, which states that the word strategy came about in warfare. Now if you have done some reading on the topic of strategy and more specifically on blue ocean strategies, you may have come across the work of Kim and Ma Bugni, in the article titled Blue Ocean Strategy, From Theory to Practice, which was published in the Journal of California Management Review in 2005. They specifically make this claim that strategy is a word that comes from warfare and has been adopted into the business world. So, if we look at the next point, which is, do companies fight war? Well, there are some firms who produce weapons, and for that reason you can say that they are fighting war, perhaps indirectly. And what about the rest of the companies? Well, let me ask you this question: are there firms that support competition? Which company likes to see that someone to come and take their customers away from them? In fact, what actually happens is when a company realizes that their customers have let them to the competition, and because of that the company's revenue has decreased compared to the previous months, the first person that gets shaken up, or even in some cases fired, is the marketing director or the marketing manager, depending on the nature of the organization. And because of this, the marketing personnel of a company need to be constantly watching what the competition is doing and quickly react to it by offering something better to their customers or launching aggressive marketing campaigns, and the objective is to get back your customers and even to crush competition. Now, this sounds a bit like war, doesn't it? Crushing your competition is what you do in war. So, for the next point, which is that strategy has branched into different areas, you may recall that I just mentioned that topics such as strategic marketing, strategic human resource management, corporate strategy have emerged. So, yes, strategy has evolved into different areas. So, let me ask you a question. What is the prime motive of an organization? Now, based on what was discussed, you may say that companies or any organization just wants to be better than the rest. Well, that's a reasonable judgment to pass based on what we just discussed. So, if we look at this point of view, or more specifically the underlying desire of any organization, it is important that they have some advantage over the others in order to succeed. Now let's use an example for this. Why would you want to buy an iPhone when you can buy a different smartphone which may have more features and even cost only half of the price of an iPhone? Well, it just seems to be that Apple has succeeded in acquiring a unique position or a preference in your mind when compared to any other smartphone that is available in the market. It can be one of the many reasons such as functionality, novelty, or innovation, or for some people it may be that it means status to you. And whatever the reason is, it's a reason that is important to you so much you value it, and fact that a product can deliver it will only trigger a form of loyalty. So, now you see why the iPhone had an advantage over any other smartphone. That is why now we will move to the next point, which is the VRIN model. Now, in this model, which was taken from the book called Exploring Corporate Strategy written by Johnson, Scholes, and Whittington in 2008. Now, according to the text offered by these authors, it hints that if a company should have a competitive advantage over the competition, the resources that the organization possess should fulfill all the requirements of being valuable, rare, imperfectly imitable, and non-substitutable. Now, how does human resource fit into this? Well, if we just look at the case of the iPhone once more, what can you say? Now, the components that went into building one were perhaps been out there in the market. Now, when I ask the question, who came up with the touchscreen technology first, from a couple of random people, they just said it's the iPhone. Well, in actual fact that's not the correct answer. The touchscreen technology has been in places such as with ATM machines, which were around before the Apple introduced the touchscreen technology. So, the fact is, Apple introduced this technology to phones and popularized ID so much. Now some people believe that the touchscreen technology was introduced by Apple. Now, if we just think a bit more about this, we know that Steve Jobs is the one who introduced this to iPhones. So, let me ask you, where does Steve Jobs fall into this picture? Well, perhaps one of the most valuable people that Apple ever had is Steve Jobs. Because of his abilities, see how much is Apple making annually by selling iPhones. And now think, what would have been the case of Samsung, if they hired Steve Jobs? Probably, they would be earning all of that money now. So, now, I guess it is possible to see the importance of human resource. Now let's just put this into the model and see whether all of this makes sense. In terms of value. Yes, we just got an idea about how valuable the contributions of Steve Jobs is. Now, is it rare? Yes, while many companies tried to deter people from buying iPhones, they haven't been all that successful. So, it's our rare resource. Is it imperfectly imitable? Yes, many companies have tried to do that. In fact, China is doing the same. Now, is it non-substitutable? Yes, Apple still hasn't found someone as good as Steve Jobs. So, just having a resource will not give you an advantage. You have to put it into good use. So, now let's look at this from a different perspective. Now, I'm sure most of you have heard of that company is preparing its annual plan or the corporate plan and so on. So, what happens in these planning that take place? Well, the company will first look at the financial performance of the company and see what went well and what didn't. So, let's just assume that your organization is a carbonated soft drink producer. Now, since this product falls into a category which is known as the fast-moving consumer goods, or in short FMCG, let's say that the company has seen a decrease in the revenue of the company and it has been consistently dropping over the last 4 quarters. Now, this is a serious condition to the company. If this continues, then the company will eventually go out of business. With the investors, having put in a lot of money to the business, they just want the company to fold up. So, in these annual planning meetings or strategic planning meetings, the management and the board of directors will discuss what went wrong. Now, suppose that the reason identified as the cause of loss of sales is that there is a growing perception among consumers that the carbonated soft drink is unhealthy and people are moving away from it. So, obviously, the company will decide to introduce healthier drinks. It could be that the company wants to introduce bottled water. Now, since the company has been in producing carbonated soft drinks, the company doesn't have the necessary skills, knowledge, or experience in producing bottled water. In such an instance, the company may decide to consult specialists to identify the requirements in establishing a bottled water production facility and may finally decide to invest in the infrastructure and hire people to work in the factory. Now, if the company decides to do this, the company will need to hire people who are familiar with the requirements of the quality procedures that need to be maintained locally as well as internationally to ensure that the water is safe for consumption. So, the company will definitely have to hire someone that is already employed in a bottled water producing facility in the country. And this gives the potential candidate the opportunity to demand from the company that is going to hire him or her. So, I guess now it is possible to see the importance of human resources in a strategic context. For the long-term survival, the company decided to launch a bottled water manufacturing facility, and for that the company will have to bear a substantial cost. Now you see the cost, or more specifically the value of human resources. Now we have reached the end of this video and I have provided the sources of information that was referred to in preparing this video. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found this video to be useful in understanding the strategic importance of human resources. If you have any concerns or suggestion, please send an email to the address provided in this video. Once more, thank you and have a great day.